Case Keenum led the Vikings to the NFC North title and a number 2 seeding in the playoffs. Minnesota hosts New Orleans in the divisional round on Sunday. John Ortiz, Associated Press. Eden Prairie, Min. Case Keenum had started the previous 3 games for the Vikings, his third team in 4 seasons, but he was still, on merit, their backup quarterback, and so he reassumed that job for Week 5 when Sam Bradford was cleared to return. Pressed into service again for an ailing Bradford, Keenum led Minnesota to victory in Chicago, and he went on to start the next week, and the week after, and the week after that. When the other injured quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, rejoined the roster in November, coach Mike Zimmer declined to designate Keenum the time starter. Keenum kept playing, anyway, and the Vikings kept winning, 13 times in all, tied for most in the NFL. The Vikings continue to abide week by week, this time without any questions about who the starter will be on Sunday, when they host the New Orleans Saints in a divisional round matchup that, fairly or not, represents the latest test of Keenum's viability. A paradox in the modern NFL is that quarterbacks tend to absorb a disproportionate share of the credit or blame, and yet regardless of the talent or coaching surrounding them, rarely do teams thrive without a great one. It's why year after year, conference championships include the likes of Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers and Ben Roethlisberger, and not, for example, Brandon Weeden. Before this enchanted season, Keenum was Brandon Weeden. Through the first 26 games of his career, Keenum, who turns 30 next month, attempted and completed nearly as many passes, and for about the same number of yards and touchdowns as did Weeden, who also made the playoffs this year, as the third stringer, not once taking a snap, in Tennessee. Keenum has never appeared in a postseason game, though he has stood on the sideline for one, as a member of the Texans practice squad in 2012, which he affectionately calls his redshirt year. Even if he believed otherwise, the next 4 seasons foretold little promise that Keenum was capable of shepherding a team to a number 2 seed and a genuine chance of reaching the Super Bowl in its home stadium, of becoming a reason Minnesota won and not why it didn't lose. But here he is, complemented by the NFL's best scoring defense and a cast of dynamic receiving options, and so are the Vikings. Keenum has never appeared in a postseason game, though he has stood on the sideline for one, as a member of the Texans practice squad in 2012. Bruce Cluckhone, Associated Press. I'm going to play like I know how to play, said Keenum, who Minnesota signed to a 1-year, $2 million contract for this season. I don't have to be anybody but myself. Not more conservative or less conservative. Either way, I'm going to be me. That's all I have to be. The 8 teams in this round could be divided into distinct groups based on their quarterbacks, those with playoff experience, who just happen to be stars, and those without it, who just happen not to be. Keenum falls into the latter category, but on performance alone he warrants inclusion in the former. His emergence offers an instructional moment for all those teams that do not have a quarterback the caliber of Brady or Drew Brees or Roethlisberger. A stigma is attached to the term game manager, often applied to quarterbacks asked to execute basic duties spectacularly. Make smart throws, think quickly, don't turn the ball over, but it shouldn't be. Clutch throws or surgical precision or sharp decision-making might distinguish the best quarterbacks, but by excelling in those areas with regularity they are also, in effect, managing games. Keenum this season has embodied a more evolved version of the term, minimizing risks while still throwing downfield, thriving in an offense that the coordinator Pat Shurmur adapted to his smaller stature 6 feet 1 inch and his strengths by moving the pocket and incorporating routes that develop quickly. The Vikings did not have a single giveaway in the red zone all season, according to the data service Sportradar, and only 3 other quarterbacks committed as few as 8 turnovers while starting as many as 14 games: Brees, Alex Smith and Tyrod Taylor. Doing what the Vikings have asked, and expected, Keenum stabilized a chaotic quarterback situation. Amid a perfect union of scheme, coordinator and opportunity, he has piloted an offense that not only possessed the ball more than every team except Philadelphia, but also finished those long drives with points, the 10th most in the NFL. We know that help's going to get us in the right place, receiver Adam Thielen said, and we know he's going to find the right guy. Drew Brees, Keenum's next opponent, is one of the best quarterbacks of this or any generation. Jonathan Bachman, Getty Images. Those 2 responsibilities, making appropriate checks at the line of scrimmage and connecting with open receivers, are paramount, and Keenum's proficiency in those areas has helped land him among special company. Since the AFL-NFL merger in 1970, only 12 times has a quarterback, as Keenum did, won at least 11 games while throwing for more than 3,500 yards with at least 22 touchdowns and 7 or fewer interceptions, per Pro Football Reference. Rodgers and Brady have done so 3 times each, and the others are a Hall of Famer Brett Favre, a league MVP Matt Ryan, an established starter Derek Carr, and 2 second-year studs Jared Goff and Dak Prescott. As he often is, Keenum is the outlier. Of the 4 less accomplished starters who play this weekend, only Keenum, the lone undrafted player among Blake Bortles, Nick Foles and Marcus Mariota, wasn't pegged as a future starter. 2 seasons ago, Keenum actually backed up Foles on the Rams. Asked about the importance of postseason experience, Zimmer said that he would like to have a Hall of Fame quarterback, but that he did not think it mattered on game day. That is precisely how you would think the coach whose starter had never played in the playoffs would answer. Keenum lacks the equity stockpiled by Brees, one of the best quarterbacks of this or any generation. It's one reason Zimmer refrained from anointing him all those times. The former Giants quarterback Phil Simms articulated the difference by citing an intangible factor, omitting Keenum from the cluster of quarterbacks he calls vampires because, he said, teams must drive a stake through their hearts to beat them. If you tell me Tom Brady or Drew Brees gets the football at the end of the game and they get 4 downs to try to score, I'm betting on those quarterbacks. Simms, an analyst for the CBS pre-game show The NFL Today, said in a telephone interview. I cannot say the same about the other ones. In fairness, Keenum has had few opportunities to direct game-winning drives, a function of the offense's ability to grab leads and the defense's skill at preserving them, though he does not necessarily have to prove that he can. The Vikings just need Keenum to play well on Sunday. If he does, if he makes few mistakes and good throws and audibles to the right plays, they will enter a familiar realm. They will get to play again next week. Follow Ben Scheidel on Twitter, @BenchPiggle. A version of this article appears in print on January 14, 2018, on page SP3 of the New York edition with the headline, Vikings hope Keenum is good enough.